I'll start if that's okay. Good
that's
afternoon,
fine.
morning, evening, where everybody, anywhere is. As John's already said, my name is Laura Marshall and I'm Programme Director working with my colleague Andrew, who's the Deputy Programme Director on Assessment Only. I've worked in education for over 20 years and worked with TES for at least 7 years across a variety of programmes. And more specifically with our recent Assessment Only, where we supported it gaining a good rating in Ofsted. So in terms of the compliance and the rigour that's within the programme, we are Ofsted graded as good. That's a fantastic achievement and we're very proud of. Just to really point on something that was on John's slide at the start with, QTS is a recognised, it's a recognised qualification. Yes, it is based, the idea is we can pick you up and you should be able to go straight to the UK system. But also it can be transferable across the world. What I would add to that is just make sure that you've inquired about that. It's a very recognised qualification, but whatever country you're going to, just make sure you ask those questions. Like when people come into the UK, they can have their QTS from their country converted, and there's lots of different sort of processes within that. But it's always good to sort of ask the question before you travel. But it is highly recognised, and we work globally supporting people in gaining QTS. So the idea of this today really is about yes or no answers. Between Andrew and myself, we're going to pass through different slides and talk about some of the really minutiae criteria to support you in looking to apply for gaining recommendation for QTS through Assessment Only with TES. So the first two really is to start thinking about, and as we're reading these, think, can I say yes to this? Or is it a no? And we'll, and we need to be as clear cut as that really when we're looking at this criteria. So the testimonies are really important. You need to have 2 years or 6 terms, but it has to be 2 years of teaching, a minimum of. And we're looking at that teaching across 2 different schools. And these need to be schools that are teaching the British curriculum, because the idea is you're transferable back into the UK system. So we need to make sure that you have that 2 years, 2 schools, and that QTS is subject specific and age phase specific. Andrew will touch a little bit more about that when we look at some of that minor detail, but it's really important that your 2 years is in the same subject or it's in the same age phase, primary, and then subject specific is secondary. You can have a minimum of a 50% timetable because we completely support the fact that people work part-time, not everyone works that full timetable, but it's also about what's specific to your school. So whatever the full-time person is on for their hours teaching a week, what would the part-time person be? So it's looking at that 50% timetable. And all of this is all based about your sole responsibility for teaching, planning, assessment and reporting. You are in charge of those students. You are supporting, you are making the decisions because of the things you do in the classroom with your planning, how you adapt, what you do has an impact on student progress, and you can evidence that. And that's really, really important. That has to be for 2 years. As I said, I just mentioned briefly about the subject specificity, and we will go into that a little bit more detail. But the DFE see you as a primary school teacher or a secondary school teacher. Secondary is across either 11 to 16 or 14 to 19. And primary, we do go down to EYFS, so that's all the way down to 3 to 7. And then we have the primary phase of 5 to 11 or 7 to 11. Now, in terms of some of the minutiae, the detail of that, you also need to think about your degrees, and you will be expected to get your ENIC, so your equivalency, and you will need to make sure when gaining that equivalency, you need your degree, you'll need your transcript, and if necessary, a translation also. You need to give ENIC as much information as possible so they can make that decision that you have a first degree, and it's a degree all in one. It can't be little bits and pieces to make it up to that first degree. It needs 300 credits. And it needs to be deemed as you are meeting that bachelor's degree. So again, if you send ENIC as much as possible, then they will give that answer. They're pretty good. They turn it around in about 5 days on average. And again, you can ask them questions. They're very supportive and they will work with you on that. But you've got to give all the information as possible and scanned in really clearly. We've said there about the degree and that sort of thing. So that initial page there, if you're going, yep, I've got that. Yes, then great. You've gone through some of the barrier which a lot of applicants have already sort of hit as soon as they get there. But it's really important that you can say clearly yes, and it can't be a maybe, not quite sure. It needs to be a yes. Again, really clear about your experience. And that different school is that you've gained different experience in a different school. In the UK, we talk about mainstream and independent. I know that's a little bit of a sort of we have through schools and international schools. You just need to put that information in there and we will guide you on what's appropriate. But we do need to make sure that they are delivering the British curriculum. There can be some variants, but it's really important that it is following that, that the curriculum that is there and the structure and the statutory requirements that happen within that curriculum, such as primary with phonics. Think about your GCSEs. Think about, even going into A levels. There are statutory points within those education aspects of SATs. So you need to make sure that that's being reflected in your curriculum that you are teaching. Andrew, you want to take the next one?
Okay, John, thank you.